Hey, y'all. Welcome to another Show Vid COVID. I can't even say it's another Show Vid COVID because at this time, this is the second episode I recorded for this particular segment. Um, the first one being a whole nother story. And I just did the same mistake twice for both episodes that I just got done recording. I was done 100% the first story of the segment, and I was kind of at the beginning of the second story of this segment, which is just me going into famous or kind of infamous mysteries and crimes or convictions from the past in celebrity culture and pop culture and such. And the first one was Mike Tyson's uh, 1990s conviction of rape. The second one was Fatty Arbuckle's uh, situation as well. Um, and what happened is at some point I pressed the wrong button because I'm me and I do these things horribly. Um, Ended up recording over what I had already recorded. So, mm, kind of messing up the flow and missing a big chunk of the information that I was presenting in the intro and my personal opinion about everything before going into the story and into the evidence that was given to kind of weigh that against what I thought before reading everything. So I'm actually recording the second episode a second time, I think, here. Only because I kind of don't feel like going back to the first episode because I was actually finished that, and at least with the second episode, I was just at the beginning. Does that make sense? So I'm going to do the second episode first, and probably the first episode second, and whatever episodes follow after that. So yeah, I like mysteries. I like hearing about court cases and evidence, things that uh, if I could have been um, better at presenting cases or better at understanding human behavior and whatever else you need to know to be in that sort of investigative or um, prosecution or jury, situation, I probably would have been a criminologist or a criminal profiler or something like that. I find the stories interesting. So what I like to do first is kind of recall what it is I knew of the situation, and just try to kind of make my little statement of what I think was what before going into the evidence, before going into the story, before going into the report. Um, and then going into that and seeing if anything has influenced my beginning opinion. And of course, these are years later after the situation, especially with Fatty Arbuckle, who was a silent film actor of like the 1920s. He was born in 1888, I think. Um, March 24th, 1888, maybe. I just know he's a March baby because I am as well. Um, that's neither here nor there. I just seem to remember that it's March babies. Um, so, from what I remember of this story, Fatty Arbuckle was a popular actor, a large guy, but light on his feet, well enough that he could do a lot of comedic, physical comedy, and like the likes of Charlie Chaplin and the likes of Buster Keaton. And in fact, I believe Buster Keaton and Fatty Arbuckle were like best friends. So I think during this story, he'll probably Fatty Arbuckle and his friendship with Buster Keaton will probably pop in there a little bit. Buster Keaton is actually my favorite out of all the kind of comedic stunt people from that time. Um, he had the sheer guts to do so many things that maybe he should not have been doing. But that's another story for another time. Fatty Arbuckle, physical comedian, actor, um, in Paramount Pictures, back when I believe the places like Paramount Pictures had actors on contracts. He was getting paid like $3 million back then. Uh, over the years, I don't know the adjustment for today's counting, monetary gain or whatever, but obviously it's more than 3 million. So basically, with like $1 million a year, 3 million over 3 years, um, simply to star in like 18 films or something like that. He was very funny, very popular. Um, so of course, back in the day, the rich celebrity acting folk would throw parties and such, and everybody would be there. Um, and uh, have alcohol and things. So at one of these parties, something happened to a woman named Virginia Rapp. I think that's how you pronounce her name. Is Rappe, um, where she ended up dying. And it was reported that she had a ruptured bladder. Now the situations uh, came together as such that it made it look like Fatty Arbuckle may have killed her in a sexual assault. So my thought of what I remember reading and hearing in documentaries and such was that he probably couldn't have done it because he was over 200 pounds. Okay, and Virginia was very tiny. She was a petite actress. All right. Um, and if it were a case of an aggressive attack that would cause her to be suffocated and also have an organ ruptured in her, um, the lack of more physical bruises, signs of suffocation and such, led me to think that Arbuckle didn't do it. As a person who's my size, I'm a female who's the biggest I've ever been was probably 265, and the smallest I ever been was probably 230. I always stay somewhere in that range, and I've been in situations where a person is aggressively on top of me or I'm on top of them in like jujitsu or things like that or wrestling and stuff. You can feel someone's body weight on you. If someone hits you hard enough or enough times, you will get a mark where that happened, even when you're my size. So I'm thinking a female of way, 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 way smaller size of a grown man who's like 260 something pounds would have shown more outward physical bruising at being attacked. So that's where I'm at right now, based on what I remember the story saying and what I remember happening. So let me see here if I can find. I'm reading from Smithsonian magazine. I try to read from places that are more credible and not just kind of your daily digest of blah 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 blah. Let's see here. Uh, Fatty Arbuckle was put on felony row, cell block 12. Actress Virginia Rapp was 25 years old. Uh, he was held without bail for killing her. Let's see here. Let's see here. Hollywood stars and such were at a party. A mysterious woman named Maud Delmont claimed to be a witness for the prosecution who would never be called to testify because police and prosecutors knew her story would not hold up on the stand, yet what she had to say would be more than enough to ruin Arbuckle's career. The days leading up to the party did not put Arbuckle in the best of moods, okay? Let's see here. He was in Los Angeles having his Pierce Arrow automobile serviced when he sat down on an acid-soaked rag at the garage. Okay, Smithsonian is really telling us about the days leading up to the party. The acid burnt through his pants to his buttocks, causing second-degree burns. He was tempted to cancel the trip to San Francisco, but Fishbach would have none of it. I don't know who Fishbach is. Let me see. It looks like somebody who booked the hotel rooms for him. Adjoining Fishbach had reserved adjoining rooms at a suite. According to Arbuckle, Fishbach arranged everything from the rooms to the guests to the liquor, and this was despite prohibition at the time. On Labor Day, September 5th, 1921, Arbuckle awoke to find that he had many uninvited guests. He was still walking around in his pajamas, bathrobe, and slippers when he saw Delmont and Rapp and expressed concern that their reputations might alert police to the gin party. In Los Angeles, Delmont was known as a madam and blackmailer. If you guys probably know what a madam is, especially in places like Hollywood, is a woman usually older, supplies women, usually younger, to people of famous names, celebrities, or people with a lot of money. Sounds like that's what she was doing for some people back in the day. Let's see here. So I can see why at the beginning they said that her testimony would probably not do anything good for this situation. Virginia had made a name for herself somewhat as a model, clothing designer, aspiring actress, and party girl. Let's see here. Food and booze were flowing. The music was playing. Arbuckle was soon no longer focused on his exhausting work schedule, the burns on his backside, or just who all those guests were. So far, according to the story, Arbuckle didn't even know a lot of these people, didn't know that a lot of these people were going to show up to his suite. So it doesn't sound like he even invited people himself. Let's see here. Virginia was 25 years old when she arrived at the St. Francis Hotel in San Francisco for the Labor Day weekend party. Maud Delmont soon painted a sinister portrait of the happy-go-lucky, portly prince of silent film, Arbuckle. This is what she told the police. After Arbuckle and Rapp had a few drinks together, he pulled her actress into an adjoining room, saying, "I've waited for you 5 years and now I've got you," end quote. After a half hour or so, Delmont heard Rapp screaming, so she knocked on and then kicked at the locked door. After a delay, Arbuckle came to the door in his pajamas, wearing Rapp's hat cocked at an angle and smiling his foolish screen smile. Behind him, Rapp was sprawled on the bed, moaning. "Arbuckle did it," the actress said, according to Delmont. Rapp was taken to another room. A doctor was summoned and he attended to her. She stayed at the hotel for a few days before she was taken to a hospital where she died on September 9th of a ruptured bladder. Okay, so the party's going on. There's food, there's liquor, people are getting drunk, rich people, pretty people, acting people, blah, 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 blah. Some point, 266-pound Fatty Arbuckle pulled this young 25-year-old model up to another part of the room, another adjoining room. She screamed sometime later. The only person in the party who heard it was Maud Delmont, who was the only one who went to the door to knock on the door and kick at it. Arbuckle just happily answered the door with a smile on his face as the actress Virginia is lying on the bed moaning out of pain and saying he did it. Arbuckle did it. Now, people put her in a whole nother room instead of taking her directly to the hospital for a couple of days. And that's according to Maud. Okay, let's see here. The Hearst papers had a field day with the story. The publisher would later say that Fatty Arbuckle's scandal sold more papers than the sinking of the Lusitania. While sexually assaulting Virginia, the papers surmised the 266-pound star had ruptured her bladder. The San Francisco Examiner ran an editorial cartoon titled "They Walked into His Parlor," featuring Arbuckle in the middle of a giant spiderweb with 2 liquor bottles at hand and 7 women caught in the web. Rumors that he had committed sexual depravities began to swirl. So right away, newspapers are getting mad money off of this, for the attention and because of the names involved and everything. Maud is telling a version of the story that really helps push the sensationalism of that. Let's see here. Arbuckle turned himself in and was held for 3 weeks in jail. Police released a mugshot of the dejected actor, photographed in a suit and bow tie, his round face showing nothing of the joy everyone saw on celluloid. He remained silent as the innuendo swelled. Arbuckle's lawyers insisted he was innocent and requested that the public make no judgment until all the facts were established. But they quickly realized Arbuckle would have to make a statement, and the comedian told a very different story from Maud Delmont's. Okay, so we're getting into Arbuckle's story. After having a few drinks with Virginia, the actress became hysterical. Arbuckle said she complained she could not breathe and then started to tear off her clothes. At no time, Arbuckle insisted, was he alone with her, and he said he had witnesses to corroborate the point. He found Rapp in his bathroom vomiting, and he had several other guests try to revive her from what they believed was intoxication. Eventually, they got her a room of her own where she could recover. Once again, the story has people involved putting her in a whole nother room instead of taking her directly to the hospital. Let's see here. Arbuckle was charged with manslaughter and scheduled for trial in November. San Francisco District Attorney Matthew Brady saw the case as the perfect opportunity to jumpstart his career in politics, but he was beginning to have trouble with his star witness, Delmont. Okay, so already there's a lawyer who's positioning his argument against Fatty Arbuckle to make his name. We have a lot of different agendas linking up in this. You have probably Paramount trying to downplay everything so they can keep their star actor. Delmont has a reputation of blackmailing and getting money from people in more shady ways. Might be trying to capitalize on that, maybe not. Then you have an attorney, Matthew, who's trying to get his name known from this particular situation. I don't know if anyone is on the side of the actress who lost their life. Let's see here. Delmont. Sometimes she claimed to be a lifelong friend of Virginia. Other times she insisted they met just days before the party. Ooh. So Delmont, Maud, is saying quite 2 different things as far as how close or how much she knew Virginia. She also had a criminal history of fraud, let's see here, and extortion, Brady discovered, also known as Madame Black. Delmont procured young women for parties where wealthy male guests soon found themselves accused of rape and blackmailed into paying Delmont. Then there was the matter of the telegrams that she sent to attorneys in both San Diego and Los Angeles. Quote, "We have Roscoe Arbuckle in a hole here since two. Let's see here. Sorry. We have Roscoe Arbuckle in a hole here. Chance to make some money out of him." End quote. Yeah, that doesn't sound great for her and her intentions of being involved in this situation. Let's see here. His reputation, Arbuckle's reputation was in shambles even after his friends Buster Keaton and Charlie Chaplin vouched for his character. Arbuckle's lawyers introduced medical evidence showing that Rapp had had a chronic bladder condition, and her autopsy concluded that there were no marks of violence on the body, no signs that the girl had been attacked in any way. The defense also had witnesses with damaging information about Rapp's past, but Arbuckle wouldn't let them testify, he said, out of respect for the dead. That's telling of how Arbuckle thought. Because I would probably would think along the same lines. Like, she's not here to defend herself. There's no need to bring up whatever past she has, you know. Not only for respect of the dead, but the fact that the past situation, whether she has a criminal past or whatever, really does nothing for this particular situation. The doctor who treated Virginia at the hotel testified that she had told him Arbuckle did not try to sexually assault her, but the prosecutor got the point dismissed as hearsay. That is interesting that the doctor said that she said that. Was he asked that the woman said that, like, said anything to him, or did he volunteer that information, to help out Arbuckle? Let's see here. Fatty Arbuckle was making $1 million per year in 1921 with Paramount Pictures. Finally, Fatty Arbuckle took to the stand on his own defense. The jurors voted 10-2 for acquittal. When the prosecution tried him for a second time, the jury deadlocked again. It wasn't until the third trial in March 1922, so this lasted a little bit. I just had to take a break to take a sip of something, juice or something. It was interesting, though, because the very things that I came up with, and I don't know if this is a good thing for the lawyers who were fighting for Arbuckle or not, that I literally came up with like the same reasoning about signs of struggle or attack, the size of Arbuckle versus the size of Virginia. And I'm not a doctor, I'm not a lawyer or anything like that. I'm just kind of a person who observes stuff. And that's what I came up with as a person who's not educated at all in the situation and in the areas of, evidence gathering that would be there. Let's see here. Arbuckle allowed his attorneys to call the witnesses who had known Rapp to the stand. He had little choice. His funds were depleted. He would spend more than $700,000 on his defense, and his career was presumed to be dead. They testified that Rapp had suffered previous abdominal attacks, drank heavily, and often disrobed at parties after doing so, was promiscuous, and had an illegitimate daughter. One of them also attacked Maud Delmont as the complaining witness that never witnessed. So, on April 12, 1922, the jury acquitted Arbuckle of manslaughter after deliberating for just 5 minutes, 4 of which were used to prepare a statement. Quote, "Acquittal is not enough for Roscoe Arbuckle. We feel that a great injustice has been done to him. There was not the slightest proof adduced to connect him in any way with the commission of a crime. He was manly throughout the case and told a straightforward story which we all believe. We wish him success and hope that the American people will take the judgment of 14 men and women that Roscoe Arbuckle is entirely innocent and free from all blame. The damage was done, so Fatty Arbuckle changed his name to William B. Goodrich, William B. Good, and worked behind the scenes directing films for friends who remained loyal to him and barely earning a living in the only business he knew. A little more than 10 years later, on June 29th, 1933, he had a heart attack and died in his hotel room. He was 46 years old. So, all of that is pretty interesting. Um, like I said, I had come to slight conclusions based on what little I remembered that seemed to echo the had something in common with the experts or the so-called people involved um, there at the time. What do you guys think? From what I read, do you have any opinion about anything about that? What do you think about when it comes to the public opinion court and the court of law? Should one have influence over the other? Um, do you think listening to both sides of the story and everything that Arbuckle may have done something or not? I am curious in hearing your thoughts about it. If there's any mystery case or interesting case that happened that you would like to hear about or discuss with me, please let me know and we can bring it up. Thank you so much for listening. You have yourself a great day. Yeah. And stay away from hotel rooms, apparently. Bad joke. I'm sorry. Honestly. Okay, so I'm just adding this little piece right here. If anyone has problems with seeing images of possible morgue images or funeral images, you could turn this off here. But while I was doing a little bit of more research on this case, I came across some pictures of Virginia. At least they say it's Virginia. From calisphere.com. That's CALISPHERE.com. Um, of her body, of Virginia's body, and it does have some bruising on the legs, on the feet. Maybe a black eye. I put a couple of the pictures. I put one particular picture down there that has two of the pictures on there. Um, just so that this video can have as much of the information as I could find on it. Um, at the same time, I didn't see any scarring on the neck or chest that we could see in the pictures that would indicate suffocation. What these bruises could also indicate is not an attack, but also, in the story, the people at the party were moving her and such. That might have been that as well. So I don't know if this changes your opinion or if it should have any bearing on it, but I did put it on there just, for fairness sake.